What's going on, everybody? I hope your day is going well. I'm here with Jose Blanco, cigar expert and widely regarded as one of the greatest veterans in the past 50 years. He is a man of honor, integrity, and just immense amount of knowledge. If you haven't heard of his name, you're going to learn a lot today. Jose is known for running some of the oldest factories out of Nicaragua, Dominican, and he is currently a sales manager, international sales manager, I might add, for Arturo Fuente, one of the most iconic cigar brands in the industry right now. Jose, thank you so much for your time today in doing this.
Yusuf, hi, how are you? One correction. I was the sales director till April. Now I was promoted to the worldwide ambassador for Fuente. So I'm all over the world.
Yeah, exactly. Can you share your journey in the cigar industry and how you became involved in Joya de Nicaragua starting point, or what exactly was the starting point?
No, the starting point is, it's a long story. My father was a political exile from Trujillo, from Dominican Republic. So I grew up seeing my father smoking 3-4 cigars a day. So my father had to leave Dominican Republic in 1930, went to the States, finished high school, spent 3.5 years in the Army, in World War II. And then in 1962, when Trujillo was killed, we went down for Dominican Republic the first time. I was born in Manhattan, but I grew up in Long Island. So his brother, Arnaldo Blanco, Jose Blanco's father, had a factory, Tabacalera Palma, which is one of the oldest factories in the Dominican Republic too, since 1936. So at the age of 13 and a half, I was already in the factory, making little blends, playing with tobacco, and smoking cigars. When my mother found out, and she told my father that I couldn't smoke till I was 18. And my father said, no, we got to compromise. So at 16, he brought me a little bundle home, and he said, officially, you can start to smoke. So when my mother went into the kitchen, he pulled me aside and says, I know you've been stealing my cigars. You've been smoking. So then after that, around 18, 19, I was smoking 1 or 2 cigars a day. And then around 21, I was smoking 2 or 3 cigars every single day. Then I worked for Grupo León Jiménez, which had the banks, Marlboro, La Aurora. And I worked for La Aurora, as the sales director and one of the master blenders there. And I retired in 2011 after 30 years with the company.
Right on.
But after a month, I was in Sweden with my in-laws, and people started to call me. And my good friend Alejandro Martinez Cuenca from Joya de Nicaragua offered me to go down. And he offered me to be the executive vice president of Joya, which Joya de Nicaragua was the oldest cigar factory in the Dominican Republic. So we spent 2 years there, and it was great. And I love Nicaragua. My son Jasper was born there. But to be honest, I wanted to go back to DR. So I took a year of consulting. I was a lot in Beijing and Shanghai and Hong Kong and Thailand, that part of the world. And even though I was paid a boatload of money, to me, money is not everything, because I really miss my colleagues, being in the factory, doing seminars, visiting the store. So after a year, then I started, I did for about 3 years, my brand and my wife's brand, but the FDA in 2016 came very hard. And I said I wasn't going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on something that I wasn't sure. Then Ernesto in 2016 offered me the vice presidency of EPC Cigars. And Ernie and I already had been friends for over 20 years. So at the end of my contract in 2019, I said, Ernie, that's it. I don't want to live in the States. I don't want to live in Dominican. I'm moving back to Europe. So in December of 2019, Carlito Fuente, which we've been friends for over now 35 years, calls me for dinner. And it was like the 20th of December. And he says to me, Papa, what are you going to do? And I said, look, I've got a lot of offers, but I don't work for corporations. So I'm moving to Europe, and I'm going to retire there. So as a joke, I said, unless you have something for me. And then he says, man, you threw me a fastball at 100 miles per hour. Let's talk in January. So in January, I came back from vacation from Europe. I started going to the farms. I started going to the factory with him. And then in February, I sat down with him at the factory with the president of the company, and they said, "What are you looking for?" And I said, "No, just make me an offer." They sent me the offer. I looked at it, didn't say a nickel more, a nickel less. But what's curious on it is that, on contracts have a date where contracts end.
Sure.
So it was as the 1st of March of 2020, and it didn't have an ending date. I said, "Is this a mistake?" And Calais said to me, "No, you're going to be here till you want. Give me at least 10 years.
Right.
And I said, "We'll see." And then he said to me, "Well, Juan Sosa's at that time 81. He's still here. So, as long as you want, you could be here." And that's more or less what it says. I blended cigars. I've been sales director.
Yes.
Now I'm the worldwide ambassador for Fuente. And, people tell me it's not because of the money, right? I said,
Right.
"No, I'm not rich, but I don't have any debts. I don't have anything. It's because I love what I do. And to be at the end of my career, to work with a friend and probably the most recognized cigar man in the world.
Probably.
It's not work." He says, "I don't work with him." He says, "I collaborate with him."
Absolutely. What a story, what a magnificent journey, just full of history, and cigars being a traditional aspect in so many people's lives in of itself just speaks volumes as to like how much this means to you and all the memories you have with your career and whatnot. But with that being said, I'm just curious to know, as a cigar enthusiast myself, and a lot of our friends and customers at our retail location would also be curious to know, what are some of like the biggest, you think like the biggest challenges you've encountered during your early days when it comes to directing or even blending for that matter? Because I know it must have been a lot different before, or do you find any similarities to it now?
No, listen, like I said, I've worked with 4 companies
Yes.
and all family owned, with different types of tobacco, different styles of making. What a lot of people don't understand is that you have to have an open mind. So when I left La Aurora, that I was there for so many years, you go to Nicaragua, and Joya de Nicaragua at that time had only worked with tobaccos from Nicaragua and a little bit of tobacco from Ecuador for some wrappers.
Yes.
So I incorporated, tobaccos from Peru, tobaccos from Dominican Republic. And Nicaragua has great tobacco, especially, the sweetness of Jalapa or the spice and earthiness of Esteli. So we started working on different blends. So it wasn't so much a challenge. To me, it was just getting, trying to make different cigars with different profiles. Because, you don't go from one place to another to try to make already what you have made successful in another place. And that's something that, no disrespect to a lot of the young guys, but every year, and for the last 20 or 25, well, at least the last 20 years, they come up to me at the show and they say, "Mr. Blanco, we know you smoke everything. There's 2 cigars. They know I don't like a big cigar. They bring me or Corona Gorda, 5.5 by 46, or Robusto, and tell me what you think." So, but the first thing I asked him was, "Where is it made?" "Oh, it's made in Nicaragua. It's made in Santiago. It's made in Honduras." "Okay, so what are you trying to make?" "Well, this is a cigar very similar, to a Padron, or very similar to a Plasencia, or very similar to something from Pete." And I said, "It's a big mistake." And I said, "Like, why?" "Because that already is successful. What you have to be is creative with blends, with shapes, with concepts, and all that." And then they go like, "Yeah," and some listen, some don't. So the challenge is really how open-minded you are and the skills you have to blend, and also the palate. See, there's only people that smoke one type of cigar. It could be only Cubans or Nicaragua, Honduras, or Dominican. And I tell people, the only way you're going to develop your palate is if you smoke different cigars, different sizes, different shapes from different places.
Absolutely.
Because I love pizza and I love steak. Sometimes I go a whole month, I don't have a steak or have a pizza.
Absolutely. And that brings me to my next aspect of this interview here. I've watched some of your older videos where you've talked a lot about blending, and you bring on people from all over the world to a certain place, and you meet up and you go over different profiles and how different tobaccos blend together. But as time goes on and as this industry is constantly evolving, how important is it to, like, do you think balancing or preserving traditional cigar making methods with being creative and open-minded for standing out in this industry?
Listen, the the base of everything of innovation. You can innovate everything you want, but at the end of the day, it's all about the tobacco, the blend, the aging, the curing, the fermentation, the way you make the cigars. So, innovation is good, but the basis is all those things that I mentioned, the curing, the aging, the fermentation, the all the aspects that you have to make a good cigar. Look, we're not going to mention names, but how many people have we seen during these years that, they're all of a sudden they're hot for a year or 2 years. All of a sudden the factory they was making 20,000 cigars a day. All of a sudden they try to make 40,000 a day and they screw it up.
Absolutely.
Because like we
all the
say,
time.
you can't rush the hands of time. And, people always complain, oh, well, you don't have enough Opus, you don't have enough Don Carlos, you don't have enough Añejos. Well, the thing is that Carlito and Don Carlos have been there all their life. If the cigars are not ready, they will not ship it. Sometimes we go 6-7 months without having a certain SKU, and it is what it is.
Sure. Yeah. So obviously, so you're just essentially emphasizing the point that it's all about the tobacco at the end of the day. But if you're a manufacturer, or if I'm running a factory, as you have done throughout your career, how do you go about navigating or sourcing high quality tobacco with a lot of different geographical origins at your disposal?
Well, I've had the let's say the luxury or the benefit that the 4 companies that I work with, cash flow was very good. La Aurora bought tobacco from the same people for 40, 50, 60, 80 years. The same thing with Fuente, the same thing with Hoya, the same thing with Ernesto. Because when you have the source, you have the relationships, you have the contacts, you can keep up with the consistency. Now, every year the crop could be different. Let's say you have a crop where it rained a lot, the leaves are going to be much thicker, much thinner, less oils, lighter colors. The fermentation process on that is going to be shorter. The temperature is going to be, you have a year where it hardly rained. You're going to have smaller leaves, thick veins, dark wrappers, very oily. The fermentation process is going to be longer and higher temperatures. But that is the secret about when you really have control of all the ingredients that go into making the cigar, that that if you had a Robusto, let's say, that has 5 leaves, and you had a leaf of Ligero, let's say a leaf and a half of Viso, and a leaf and a half of Seco, depending how the crop was, you keep the same 5 leaves. What could change is the percentages, because if you have a year where the crop rained a lot, you're not going to have so much to those leaves. So you might instead, if you had just a leaf of, let's say, leaf and a half of Viso, maybe you need to get it as close as possible 2 leaves. So that plays a very important role, and a lot of people don't understand the importance of really having a lot of tobacco, a lot of inventory, but having great master blenders.
Absolutely. And given all like the experience you've accumulated over time, obviously you have witnessed consumer preferences change, with whether it comes to flavor profiles or sometimes the cigar sizes and whatnot. How difficult do you find to constantly cater to a consumer market that is preferably looking for one particular thing, whether it's a Robusto or Gordos 6x60 have become more popular in recent times? How do you cater to current consumer preferences?
Listen, let me put it to you this way. The industry has changed so much with sizes, because when I started off, nobody thought like a 6x60, a 6x54, 7x70, and all that. And to be honest, the person who put that with the Series R for La Gloria for Ernie, and then when he went on his own, that he started with the inch, he started to do all those things too. At the end of the day, you try to smoke what you enjoy the most, and what really lets that blend that you like.
So, as I was saying earlier, so as the market constantly evolves and the consumer preferences change, how do you adjust to the demands the consumers have, whether it's cigar sizes, such as recent times 6x60 becoming more popular? What do you do to cater to that?
Well, look, in the case of Fuente, we're very traditional. We have very few sizes in the 60. Most of our stuff is to be honest, 42, 44, 46, 48, 47, 49, 50, 52, 54.
Yep.
In the Magnum line, we have a 56, a 58. We're more towards the more traditional cigars. And that's the way that, it's been for many, many years. And it's
Yes.
been, I mean, we've been in back order for 20 years. And I mean, we make a
Wow.
boatload of cigars. And, it's been because of the quality, the consistency, and, the efforts that Carlito and Don Carlos and the whole team have made in DR to make a consistent product. Because like I said, anybody can make a cigar, successful for a day, for a week, for a month, for a year, but to do it for 112 years,
For 112
Fuente
years.
has, it's a lot.
So Fuente being an iconic brand, like you said, over 100 years of just reputation and consistency. How does a company the size of Fuente manage production and consistently ensure authenticity in their blends?
Well, the secret to that, to be honest, my friend, to have a lot of inventory.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think separates a good cigar from a truly exceptional blend?
That's a great question. This is the way I'm going to put it. You have average cigars, you have good cigars, you have very good cigars, you have great cigars. You have what we call unicorns, but you have cigars that if you follow me on Instagram, you see that I say they're memorable and unforgettable.
Yeah.
And that is a cigar that you'll live to be 100 and you will remember where you smoked it, who you smoked it, and probably what you paired it up with. Because those cigars, there are not so many. To me, I estimate I've smoked between 74 to 75,000 cigars in my life. And I can tell you maybe 100, 150 cigars could be what I call unforgettable and memorable. That said, I've smoked a ton of great cigars.
Yeah.
But to really give the definition of unforgettable or memorable and unicorn, it's not that easy.
Well, can you share some examples of cigar brands or like the names of the different Fuentes that you consider to be unforgettable?
Okay, let's talk only about Fuente. No, to me, everybody knows that my favorite cigar from Fuente is the Don Carlos Personal Reserve. And I had the pleasure to smoke them before they were commercial because Don Carlos, once in a while, I would see him at the airport and he would always give me one. Something that really impressed me, and we talked about it on a show that's going to come out, was when Carlito came out with the Añejo line, and I remember that he brought me a box of the 46 to my house, and he wanted me to try it. That was back in 1999, and that blew me away because what a lot of people don't understand that broadleaf was a wrapper that was used, in binder and was on some cheap cigars and things like that. But the way that Carlito fermented and aged and made those cigars, the Añejo line, it's one of the most sought out cigars there, and it only comes out once a year. It's indeed an amazing smell. So, like, to me, the 25th Opus anniversary, which I've only smoked like 3 or 4, to me that's unforgettable. It's memorable. The Don Carlos Lancero, that we don't sell them. It's only for charities that Carlito makes them. The Forbidden X, I mean, that cigar is just amazing. But I'll tell you a cigar that I smoke at least 3 or 4 a week that, it's one of our best sellers, and it's as good as any cigar that we make. The Sun-Grown Double Chateau. That cigar's phenomenal.
I just watched a video of you recently on Instagram, just going over that summary of that cigar. It's a lot of, because like Fuente making all these different excellent premium options to choose from. How do you consistently stay up to date with the best option at your disposal? Whether you go to a retail shop, oh, they only have Eye of the Shark, they only have Don Carlos, they have these Opus X, but they don't have the Magnum. You know, it's you forget.
But let me tell you something. There's no shop that has the Eye of the Shark or Opus that doesn't have the other stuff. But that's not the way we work. For you
Sure,
to get some
absolutely.
Eye of the Shark, to get some Opus, to get some Forbidden X, some 20th anniversary once in a while, you got to carry a lot of our stuff because,
Yeah.
you know, my son is 11 years old. He can go out and sell Opus all day long. But, you know, it's not that. It's, you know, we make a certain amount of Opus, but our bread and butter is Chateau, Double Chateaus, Hemingways, Don Carlos, Magnums. That's what we make in the millions.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And all those blends obviously have some aging to the tobaccos. You being in like a blender in the field, how do you determine an optimal aging process? I've always wondered.
Listen, at Fuente, one I think, and I've said this before I worked with Carlito. One of the great secrets of Fuente always was that Don Carlos and Carlito and Don Arturo believed in aging tobacco. I'll give
Yeah.
you an example. Just regular production, 858 4 feet with Cameroon wrapper.
Yeah.
Filler binders and wrappers are 4 to 5 years old. You take Don Carlos and the Hemingways, those fillers and binders and wrappers, those are 6, 7 years old.
Yeah.
You take the Opus regular line, those fillers and binders are 8 to 10 years old. And some of those very rare stuff that Carlito makes, there's some of those tobaccos that are 12, 14 years old that he does for those charity events. You know, I can tell you this, I don't think there's any company in the world that has more tobacco than us. We could go right now, let's say that the world were froze, and we couldn't grow tobacco for the next 5 years or 6 years. Fuente could keep making the same amount of cigars for the next 5 or 6 years without changing the quality, without changing the consistency, because of the inventory that we have.
And that also helps transition to the expansion project that Fuente is going to in Nicaragua, correct?
Yeah, Nicaragua's a different thing. We're on now on our 7th crop, and it was a couple of years ago that Carlito revealed that we had all those farms and all those properties in Nicaragua. But we imagine we have thousands and thousands of bales of grown tobacco in Esteli that we haven't even used yet. So it's our biggest. I mean, the human factor is the most important thing at Fuente, but you know, the amount of tobacco that we have is just, that's why we can be so consistent on it.
So speaking of the amount of tobacco that Fuente holds, is it okay if we briefly go over the impact of the incident Fuente unfortunately suffered the loss of so many tobaccos in a fire, I believe it was, that led to the creation of the Lost City blend by Opus. Was that of recent time?
No, that led to the Angel share, but that was a big fire that we had with some tobaccos that were going to be used for the Destino Siegel 100 anniversary, and we had a fire last year also where we lost one warehouse. But when you have 30, 40, 50 warehouse, and you have, you know, a different, we have what's called planta uno, planta dos, planta tres, planta cuatro, which are, you know, just different factories and different process, and we keep on building and expanding and expanding and expanding. Does it hurt? Absolutely, it hurts. But if we didn't have the resources to have, you know, thousands of thousands, probably 180, 90 or 100,000 bales of tobacco, we couldn't do it.
Yeah, without question. I mean, I can only imagine how important that must have been to have like the backup and the resources to continue carrying on the legacy that Fuente has, you know, embezzled in the industry. I have a question regarding just for the general public, anybody interested in pursuing a career in the industry, what advice do you have for somebody like that? Any career regarding, for example, overseeing production and directing a factory, such as the, you know, responsibilities that you've taken care of?
Well, that you would really have to live in Dominican or Nicaragua or Honduras or
Yeah.
Mexico or Costa Rica. and really start, learning the curing, the fermentation, the aging, the making the cigars, smoking pure grade cigars. But the funny thing about this is that, what Carlito and I and many others know, you don't learn that in the university. Those the street things, that's not in books. There's nothing in books that can tell you about how to taste. That is something that you're born with. You have it or you don't have it. I know people that you're given an unbanded cigar and they can tell you who makes it. I don't do it so often now because I don't travel in the States, but for many years people will give me unbanded cigars and will tell me who do you think it's from? And I would say 7 out of 10 times, or sometimes 8 out of 10 times I can tell you. Well, like in Pepin's case, I could tell you, well, I know it's made by Pepin. The only thing is, I don't know if it's one for Ernesto, it's one for Aroma La Cuba, it's one for Pete, or it's one for Pepin, but it has his signature, the same with AJ and other companies. But that you get after smoking, I've been smoking now 58 years.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine. So let's talk about the cultural impact surrounding cigars. What are some of like your favorite insights regarding how the culture in the industry influences cigars as a whole? Do you have any particular memories from like any cultural influences that you've experienced in your career?
Well, look, I've had the privilege also to have met and spend time with some of the greatest minds. Fernando Leon, Guillermo Leon's father, I worked with him very well. Benji Menendez, which is the last of the living legends. Uncle Benji,
Yes.
was the owner of Monte Cristo por la Rañaga and Nate Shopman. I will see
Yes.
him in January, spend an afternoon with him. Of course, Don Carlos, Carlito, Juanito Sosa, so many greats. Ernie, with Ernie, I learned so much with Ernie. And a lot of people. I used to go to Cuba. Spent a good amount of time in Hawaii and the factories there. And some of the great minds that have been out there, they've been kind of like mentors to me because I started very, very, very young. With Hochi, my cousin too, and a lot of people in Cameroon in different factories. So I've been lucky to have really good mentors and people that I learned from. Because one thing that I learned at a very young age, talk to people who have the experience and people who have been successful. I don't want to talk to somebody who says he knows it all and can't even make the cigar and put it together. So theory is one thing, to be successful is another thing.
For sure. What you mentioned some of the most iconic names that I'm aware of as well. It just makes me wonder, are there any particular collaborations you've had over the course of your career that you're proud of and to think that contributed to your success the most? Anyone that stands out?
I'll put it to you this way. I'm going to take the fifth on that one because when I was consulting, and then there were times where I would go a month, maybe a month and a half, without working until I was evaluating. I did a lot of things for a lot of people. There's a lot of people on shows that haven't mentioned me, and I really like it. Other people, I said, there's no need. I don't look for any accolades or anybody saying this. But I've worked with a lot of people. I've helped a lot of people, and to be honest, somebody comes up to me and gives me a cigar, and I'm going to tell them if I like it, don't like it, and if I like it. And I think something is missing. I'll tell them, look, I think you should, you play around with this binder. I think, it lacks a little bit of flavor. I think it lacks a little bit of body. It lacks a little bit of strength. I think it lacks aroma. So I've always said we don't need more manufacturers, but we don't need more retailers. What we need is better manufacturers and better retailers.
Yes.
So, and better salespeople.
Absolutely. So your qualifications, we're talking about Hoyo de Nicaragua, the oldest cigar factory established in Nicaragua, La Aurora, the oldest cigar factory established in the Dominican. These are factories that have established and maintained their core identities for decades. And you're currently ambassador for Fuente. Obviously, that's over 100-year-old long reputation. How do you think, like, like for example, Hoy de Nicaragua and La Aurora, it just always makes me wonder, like, how do these companies continuously maintain their core identities?
Well, the first thing is they're family owned. They're not bean counters.
Sure.
Unfortunately, we have these big corporations. They're just trying to see how they save a nickel. Family owned companies work with the heart, work with tradition, work with love, and more than anything else, they take care of their people. Because at those factories, you can see people that have been there 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And why are they still there? Because they were treated well. I'll give you an example. Juanito Sosa, which is a master blender and also one of the old-time Cubans, is 85 years old. And he goes to work every day at 7 o'clock. And he's there with Carlito every day. He doesn't need the money. He does it because he loves it.
Absolutely.
A lot of people, money is important. But more than the money is that you have to love something. You have to give everything you got. So, people say, like, how the hell do you do it? I mean, I was right now, and this weekend, I arrived in Estonia at 2:30 in the morning. I had to leave. I did a lunch and I did an event. I got up the next day at 2:30 in the morning to go to Frankfurt and come back. Before that, I was 10 days in Spain, and I traveled by land, 3,000 kilometers, and visit 8. I did 8 tasting seminars and visit 20 cities.
Wow.
And the people, how do you do it? The first one, Mrs. Carlito said to me in the early, how can you do it? I said, well, I've been doing it for so many years. Also because I love it. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it. Because it's not about money. It's all about, the love, the passion, talking with consumers, educating people that I've done this for the last 30 years. So when I die, people will say whatever they want, but one thing I want people to remember the time that I took to do over 3,000 tasting and blending seminars to educate consumers all over the world.
That's very wholesome. Absolutely. I mean, just there's so many different questions that come to my mind, but there's probably people who will listen to this who aspire to achieve, or go on to embark a similar path, such as a career that you have done, and not just blending, but educating as well. For people who share a similar passion, maybe not the same intensity as you do, but they have the similar passion and interest that you held in your early career, what do you think is the most important step, the first step for them to go about this? And whether it be making a blend, for example, like how does somebody ensure who wants to really crack this industry open, what's the first thing they should really be worried about?
About tobacco.
Yeah, just about the tobacco, like taking the time to get to know the tobacco,
Exactly.
getting to know
because listen, the problem is you hear all the time because you're on social media. People talk all the time about fermentation. People are obsessed with fermentation. But before fermentation, you have to cure the tobacco. And before you cure the tobacco, you have to pick the tobacco. And before you pick the tobacco, you have to do the seedlings. You got to transplant the tobacco. The tobacco cannot be picked too mature, cannot be too young. When you're curing the tobacco, it's around 35 to 38 days, depending. If it's very, very hot and dry, you have to bring in humidity. And if it's, let's say it's raining and raining and raining, you have to bring in heat. Because every step, if it's not done correct, at the end of the day, when you have the tobacco, when you are making the cigar, you're going to pick up or a metallic note or sourness or bitterness, or you're going to see a combustion ring that will have 1 inch of darkness to it. And you know that that wrapper, first of all, was not fermented well, and second, was not aged well. So there's a lot of things that, people think it's easy, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
To be successful. I'm talking about to be successful and to really be out there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most interesting facts I've encountered, at the retail level is when a blend or a cigar that's being manufactured, it goes through sometimes a couple hundred pairs of hands from start to finish before the consumer ends up with it and enjoys that cigar, which is just astonishing. Think about the years and years of different processes that tobacco had to endure and undergo for that consumer to enjoy. It's extremely extensive, of course.
Yeah, that's we estimate that between 230, 235, 240 heads, directly or indirectly, touch a cigar before it lands in any part of the world.
Absolutely. Another question I had for you is, for a product so traditional that's in a market that's continuously emerging, the industry's constantly evolving, how do you see the future of this emerging cigar market? Where do you see, like, the states just won a big regulation against the FDA. Do you think we're going to continuously pile onto that, or will there be some setbacks?
Look, the FDA, the government's opinion of the governments worldwide do not like to move. But one thing we're seeing in these states is that a lot of states now, they're lowering taxes. A lot of states are reversing some laws to allow cigar bars, lounges, and things like that. Because at the end of the day, and the ruling from the FDA is very clear. Look, our industry is $1.something billion. The cigarette industry is $90 billion. The vape industry is much bigger than us, and all that other crap that's out there. Cigars is 100% tobacco. A premium cigar, you can take it to any lab in the world, and it will read on the print it's 100% tobacco. Even the glue that we use for the binder and the wrapper, it's a glue. It's a sap from the tree. It's a vegetable, so nobody can accuse of. And the other thing is the rate of people. Look, during COVID, and I have between Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I don't know, like 35, 40,000 people. I don't know everybody, but I know a lot of them.
Yeah.
I never saw anybody who was a cigar smoker that died of COVID. And I was in the hospital here in Macedonia for 28 days, and I almost died. I almost died. But after that, I survived 28 days, and after that, it's been a lot of smoking, and I feel great. And so it's something that's people will see tobacco, or cigarettes, or mass market, or all that other stuff. But premium cigars it's just another thing. It's another fragrance. It's not
without question.
Not,
Absolutely. I think one of the most integral components of a consumer cigar experience I've experienced on a retailer level is that visual aspect. And I see, for example, some of the packaging for Fuente, they constantly talk about how, hey, how's it going, buddy?
Good.
What's your name? What's his name?
Jasper.
Wow.
He has to say hello in every show.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome to see him. That's your boy?
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. A future football star.
When's he allowed to start smoking cigars?
Carlito,
right now.
When did you tell Carlito you're gonna smoke your first cigar?
18.
At 18.
18. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. That's wholesome. So I mean, like, part of the consumer's experience when it comes to cigar smoking, I've seen it on a retail level, is like the packaging and that visual aspect. At Fuente, every time we get the Fuente order into our store, they have this slogan, and never rush the hands of time. And how important do you think that kind of packaging creativity factors into the consumer's experience?
Well, Fuente during years, that's been their tagline: never rush the hands of time. I remember when I was working at La Aurora, I already was very close friends with Carlito. At that time, I would smoke a lot of 858s because I like that cigar. I'm a big fan of Cameroon. I consider Cameroon wrapper.
Cameroon wrapper, yeah.
The best wrapper, but true Cameroon wrapper, grown in Africa, not a Sumatra seed grown in Ecuador or grown in Honduras, and people say it's Cameroon. Oh, it's Cameroon seed. There's no such thing as a Cameroon seed. But anyway, no, that is something that really aging the tobacco, taking care of the people in the factory has been part of the success, and also the talent of Carlito and the team to make great cigar. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
You have a Don Carlos and you have a Hemingway.
Yeah.
Both Cameroon wrapper, both fillers and binders Dominican, and the cigar tastes totally different. That's when you know how great a master blender is. When he can take the same tobacco and make different cigars.
Wow. And what are some of the main factors that lead to that tobacco tasting different, even though it's the same tobacco?
It's the art of blending.
Sure thing.
It's the art of blending. It's like the art of cooking.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Everybody uses that analogy.
cooking and blending cigars are very different. You have salt, you have spices, you have tomato paste, you have different things. Well, the same thing happens with tobacco. You have different origins, you have different primaries, you have ligeros, you have visos, you have secos, you have all different things.
You know, Jose, here's a question that that some of our customers will ask from time to time. I'll be specific just to make it more simplified. Like Cameroon wrapper, an authentic African Cameroon wrapper tends to be a little more expensive. But what is it about that tobacco that makes it more expensive?
Because it's grown in the second most dense rainforest in the world, where the Americans have had to put in electricity, hospitals, water, security. It's very dangerous to grow tobacco there, and but it's great tobacco. It's great tobacco, and the conditions there are not like in Honduras or Dominican or Ecuador or Dominican Republic. It's very dangerous, but still, you know, they risk it and invest a lot of money, and they finance the crops every year, and it's very hard to grow Cameroon. It's a great robber, but the yield on that is very low.
Yeah. So given how difficult it is and dangerous it is to harvest and cultivate that tobacco, what would you suggest is a good starting point for someone to appreciate it once it's in its finalized format? Like the Don Carlos uses the Cameroon for sure. A lot of Aurora's products have it. The Hemingway is phenomenal work of art, one of our best sellers for Fuente in our store here. Yeah. So which one do you think stands out from a Cameroon varietal?
No, definitely the Don Carlos line. That is amazing. But I'll tell you another cigar. I don't know if you guys sell it, the 85843. That's one of our biggest sellers.
Oh, we do. Absolutely. Yeah, without question.
It's priced well. It's a great cigar. That's a good size.
Yeah. Yeah, and we talk about these are like some of the key traditional wrappers, right? That have been around for a long time. And now we're getting to some more like exotic varietals from Costa Rica. I don't know if Peru, but you mentioned you used Peru in your early days. I didn't know it was around that long. That kind of took me a little by surprise.
Peru, Pelo de Oro, I mean, for filler, you don't use a lot of it. You use like maybe half a leaf. It blends well. It's very aromatic. It blends, works well. Same thing with tobacco from Brazil, Matapina, Rapidaca, Matanorte. Look, tobacco, when it's good, it doesn't matter where the origin is. It's just, you know, the process of getting it with the curing, the fermentation, and the aging, the correct process, and all those steps you have to make. But
so here, what response would you have to the cigar enthusiast who makes the argument that there is a magical seed tobacco and it's Cuban tobacco? We hear it a lot. Is that a legitimate argument?
let me tell you something, no country produces tobacco better than others. They're just different. Now, you know, what's really painful is, and I'll put it to you this way, look, I used to go to Cuba a lot, I have a lot of friends in Cuba, but let's put it this way. How can a country go for being the largest producer and exporter of cigars, at one time 210 million, to go from 200 to 170, 170, 140, 140 to 110, 110 to 90, 90 to 70, and maybe 50 something last year.
Wow.
Nicaragua is the #1 producer in units, but in money it sells because of Fuente Navidad, General, and Altares. And then it's Honduras, and then it's Cuba. So Cuba in producing cigar is #4 in the world. And if Mexico is making cigars, Mexico will surpass Cuba too.
Wow. That's new insight. I did not see that coming at all, as far as Mexico goes, at least. But yeah, like with the comes to like the quality control, you know, Nicaragua has built such a reputation for consistency, as well as Dominican and pretty much non-Cuban countries. Cuba, we have, you know, we'll get a box in, half the box doesn't draw properly. It's become a common occurrence, and Like for Fuente, I don't know if it's public information, but are you able to disclose how many cigars are rolled a day? Because nobody's had a bad Fuente ever. I've never seen anybody complain about it. So how do you
I know.
guys maintain
No,
that?
no, because I'll tell you something, and this is why Fuente is different in so many ways. You know, if you see a photo of a factory, you're gonna see 100 rolls. So you got 25 making Robustos, 25 making Toros, 25 making Churchill, 25 making 6x6.
Yeah,
And next week, they'll be doing Medicosos, they'll be doing Lanceros, they'll be doing the Picaros. At Fuente, the opus are made in one room alone. And the roller that makes the opus, let's say the opus 77 or the Perfection X, during 49 weeks of the year, that guy only rolls that cigar. The
yeah,
Doncados are made in one room that only roll Doncados. The heavyweights are made in one room, they only roll heavyweight.
wow,
The magnums are made in one room, they only roll that. The chateaus and double chateaus. So even though Carlito said the perfection does not exist, but if you have a roller doing 49 weeks rolling that same cigar, I think there's a 99.9% that cigar, when you cut it, will draw well, burn well, and taste well. That is
for
why
sure.
Fuente is different. And no factory in the world does it like the way we do it.
Absolutely. You know, I was having a conversation with my brother. We've been smoking cigars for just over 5 years together. We pretty much smoke every day together after work. And what is your recommendation for somebody who wants the best size to taste, whether it be a Corona Gorda or a larger ring gauge cigar? What's the best cigar? Because you talk about the taste for the Fuentes. So what size is it? Is there an answer to that or no?
Well, it's good that you bring it up because that's another misconception that the Cubans, unfortunately, for years have said that the wrapper doesn't have any kind of impact. But they only say that when they're in Cuba. When they're out of there, they just laugh at it. I was in Spain now, and I was doing a tasting seminar, and a very famous guy, when I go around the room asking what percentage and flavor and strength is the wrapper, there
Yeah,
was already some people that when I was in Aurora and Hoya, I made a cigar with 5 different wrappers,
yeah.
and you would see every time you would go from one wrapper to the other to change. And this guy said, no, it doesn't impact anything. So the most famous retailer in Spain, Don Pepe Martinez Franco, said to the guy, come here. He said, when I was in Nicaragua in 2010, and Jose Blanco had us smoke a cigar with 5 different wrappers, I knew the Cubans have been lying about that. The wrapper
Wow.
has such an impact on that. And I'll give you an example. You take a Robusto with a Connecticut wrapper, flavor and strength is going to be about 18 to 20%, depending on the priming of the wrapper. You take
Okay.
that same filler and binder in a Robusto, and you put a Corojo Ligero wrapper on it, it's going to be 55 to 60. You take a Lancero, 7.5 by 38, you put a Viso Habano Ecuador on it, it's going to be 75 to 80 because it's the ratio of filler to binder to wrapper. It's a
I see.
misconception that people think the bigger the ring gauge is, the more flavor and the more strength. And I tell
Yeah.
people, you don't believe it, it's very easy. Take whatever brand you want, buy a Corona 5.25 by 42,
Yeah.
make it the first cigar of the day, then smoke the next day that same cigar in a 6 by 60.
Yeah.
And even though the flavors are going to be similar, where are you going to find more strength? In the 6 by 60 or in the 5.25 by 42? And when they do it, they say, God, it's unbelievable. I never realized it. It's a misconception that people have that think bigger cigars and bigger windows, more flavor. That's not true.
Very interesting. Yeah, because we constantly hear about that filler to binder to wrapper ratio, and people think because there's more smoke output that they're tasting it, the flavor is going to be more enhanced just as by nature of the size of the cigar. But it's, a lot more of a extensive process than that, as you clearly described and whatnot. Jose, what do you think is like the next step in your career right now? If you've done so much, you've accomplished so much, what is it is there anything left on your radar?
No. My career ends here. Could be tomorrow, could be in 5 years, could be in 10 years. My career will be as long as I can travel, will be with the Khalid and the Ciro, with Jeremiah, and that's the end of it. I could be offered today 10 times what I make, and I would say thanks, but no thanks. This is
Wow.
I am working with I think the most recognized family-owned company in the world that has changed. Because see, a lot of people don't understand that the cigar industry changed. Before, there's a before and after Opus X. Opus X changed the world of cigars. Without a doubt, the most recognized brand in the world is Corina. There is no doubt about it. We recognize that. But who is the most recognized persona in the world? It's Carlos
Fuente.
Fuente.
Absolutely.
But after the limited edition from the Cubans, the people are paying ridiculous prices. What is the most sought out cigar in the world?
Opus X. Yes.
Imagine the people are paying $20 for an Opus X in the States. They're putting it in the secondary market, selling it for $40. The Opus Amor del Desierto, the one that goes to Dubai, it's $100 in Dubai. People are paying $200 for it, secondary market. The Opus X 25th anniversary, people are paying $500. A cigar, not a box, a cigar.
A cigar.
So it's the phenomenon, but it's been, you know, the blends, the consistency, the love, and what Carlito also does for the foundation and all that, and his charity events.
Well, like I was telling you earlier, Jose, I mean, there's such a wealth of information, and your qualification speaks volumes for itself. And there's so much more that I can honestly go into, and just want to be respectful of your time. It's already been more than an hour. Time flies talking to you about cigars. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this.
No. Thank you for the invitation. You know, I get a lot of requests, and I'm not going to mention, but you know, some of the people I see that do the interviews, they got a lot of gotcha questions and things like that. Not that they've done it for me, but I see it. You know, at my age, I just want to share a little bit about my life. I want to share a little bit about the industry. I want to let people give them information. If you want to get into the industry, whether it's on the retail level or the sales level or the manufacturing level, you know, do it correct. Do it in a way, you know, honor the industry, because let me tell you something, this is the greatest industry in the world. I don't care what anybody says.
I agree.
And I'll tell you what, tell me another industry in the world where you're not judged by the color of your skin, religious belief, or you're smoking a $5 cigar or a $50 cigar, or what industry in the world could you be in a lounge with a guy that's working at Burger King, an IT guy, a lawyer, and a doctor? And fifth, the most important, tell me what industry in the world you can go to any city in the world, sit down in a lounge, and start a conversation with a person that you've never seen in your life. No industry in the world.
There is no industry
is like that.
It always amazes me whenever I go to different events and lounges. You see people of different ethnicities, religions, race, everything, but all that goes out the door when there's a cigar on the table. It's just awesome.
That is true.
But
anyway, listen, Yusef, keep up the great work.
Thank you.
If I go to Canada next year, there's a funny thing. It's funny because on the show I was doing the other day, somebody asked me, what is the country you have visited the most? Believe it or not, it's been Canada.
Wow.
Because, you know, I work with House of Four.
Sure, yeah.
With Colum and Joe McCarty and all those guys there for, it's been now 23 years. So I travel with Aurora about it, and now very directly with Fuentes. So I mean, your Hogarth, Caddy, Colum. I mean, so I've been there many times. Walter, Yogi, Julian. I mean, so many friends in Canada. I have a lot of memories and a lot of fun times. So if I do go next year and do a couple of events, you know, you'll probably see it on my social media, and I hope to have a cigar with you.
Oh, we would, without question, be involved. Obviously, that goes without saying. I mean, it'd be an honor to meet you in person as well. Appreciate that.
Anyway, thanks for the invitation. You
My
have a
pleasure.
wonderful evening, and keep it smoking.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.